You know what? I really do love the holiday season. Even though I tend to spend the holidays alone, I still can't help but be filled with that warm and fuzzy feeling that this time of year tends to elicit in people. And one of the biggest things that gets me into the holiday spirit is movies. Pretty much everyone has one movie or TV special that just embodies this time of year for them. It may be Charlie Brown, it may be that one dope-ass episode of SpongeBob, it may be any of the fucking Grinch movies. It doesn't matter what it is, all that matters is that it fills your heart with just warmth and love. One of those films for me is the Rankin Bass production of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. That movie is classic in all of the right ways. It's got that kind of animation style that you can't help but just love. It's that early stop motion quirkiness that I'm just so fascinated by. You can tell that the people who worked on the original Rankin Bass films were just filled with passion for their craft and expressed that in every frame of animation that they created, hand by hand. Rudolph is my favorite of their movies. It's kind of always been that way. Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer was actually the first song I ever learned how to sing as a child, and that's just sort of carried with me into my adult life. To me, Rudolph is more of a Christmas symbol than Santa even is, but that's just me. I understand that that might be a little weird. Now, pretty much everyone's seen the original Rudolph. We all know how it goes. Some freak is born with a fucked up nose, and everyone makes fun of him for his entire life, and then he runs away, but he comes back and saves Christmas, whatever. We all know that story. What a lot of people don't seem to know is that Rankin Bass made multiple movies where Rudolph was in it and the focus. Yeah, there's that movie with the fucked up baby New Year, and then the other film where him and Frosty team up to fight some dude. Whatever. That's not what we're talking about here today. I'm talking about a completely different film. Now, I'm the kind of person that has a lot of repressed childhood memories, so much so that every once in a while I'll just be sitting at work or at home and then suddenly one of them pops up again. Most of the time in the form of some weird piece of media that I haven't seen in years. So in 1964, the very talented people at Rankin Bass Productions decided to make an adaptation of the popular Christmas song, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, into a movie that could be shown on television. Of course it's a hit, we've all seen it, it airs on TV every year, there's merchandise out the wazoo, so of course, there would be sequels. And honestly, all the other movies that Rudolph is in are like sequels, but not really. It's sort of hard to write a continuation of the Rudolph story because it really does package itself well. Rudolph goes from being ostracized to being loved by his community, and there's not too much more you can do with that without making the universe he's in seem kind of shitty. But then in 2001, Good Times, yes, that Good Times, they decided to make a sequel to Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer entitled Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer and the Island of Misfit Toys. Now you might be thinking, like everyone was at the time, is there a demand for this? Were people really clamoring for another Rudolph movie almost 4 decades after the original came out? The answer is no. Nobody wanted this. But Good Times somehow got the rights to it and decided to make it anyway. Now that brings us to the question, how did they make it? Did they use stop motion and try to recapture the magic of that beautiful art form? No, they did it in complete CGI. Because at the time, computer animated movies were the new hotness, Pixar was doing really well, and DreamWorks was fiddling around with the ideas, and just everyone all around was really excited about what computers were going to do for the field of animation. Unfortunately, this led to a lot of companies just churning out really shitty CGI movies just because they could. And I firmly believe that this film was a product of that. There aren't many movies that I consider hard to watch, but this is definitely one of them. Now, I watched this movie twice in order to make this video, and I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm still not 100% sure what happened. This movie almost doesn't even open like it's a Rudolph movie. It opens with a heist kind of situation, a home invasion heist. The main antagonist of this movie is the Toy Taker. This dude in a trench coat and a hat who plays a little flute, and toys get entranced by it and climb into his weird blimp. So this movie takes place seemingly 1 year after the events of the original 1964 film. The classic song plays, everyone loves Rudolph, they do a little parade into Santa's Christmas tree room, I'm guessing. There's this big Christmas party, Rudolph does the honors of lighting the tree, but it blows a fuse. Which, you would think out of everywhere on the planet that a Christmas tree lighting would not blow a fuse, it would be here, but whatever. And this is when we get to see that Rudolph is pretty much just Santa's flashlight. Then Clarice, the girl reindeer from the original movie, gives some very suggestive looks to Rudolph, and they go outside and go into another musical number. So far we've had 2 musical numbers in the span of not even 10 minutes. It's this cute little romance ballad. Rudolph is flying around being all cute and fun, and the girl reindeer definitely wants to bone. They go back inside, and there's these little kid reindeer, and one of them wants Rudolph's autograph, which is just him smearing the shit he stepped in her little book. And this is where we start to get one of the big themes of the movie, and that is how to handle being famous. I never understand this. This is something that comes up in a lot of children's movies that I've seen over the years, where it's like the main character becomes famous and then has to cope with fame. How many children do you know that are famous and needing this life lesson? I don't know any. And I guess the argument can be made that it's not so much about how to handle fame itself, but more so how to be humble in the face of your talents. But that's not really what this movie's doing. This movie is explicitly tackling how Rudolph doesn't really like being famous. He doesn't like the attention that fame has given him. Because Rudolph's entire goal in the original movie was just to sort of be accepted by his peers. He never really wanted to be above them or in any way, like, revered by them. He just wanted to play reindeer games. Now he's a celebrity. People, like, refer to him as the most famous reindeer of all. I guess the song went really fast into production after his first flight. But then we're gonna stop all of that. Just all of that dead in its tracks. There's a kite with a face that needs help. And this kite with a face needs a dentist. And I understand how crazy that sounds. But I didn't write it. So the kite with the face finds Hermie, and he's like, yeah, I'll totally go with you, because you need a dentist. And then Rudolph volunteers to go with him. I get it, they're friends, but like, Rudolph, you don't have any dental experience. What are you gonna do, be a flashlight?
Please. Wider. Wider.
Oh, so Rudolph and Hermie and this creepy fucking kite get in Hermie's weird tooth-mobile and make their way to the island of misfit toys, where King Moonracer lives. I'm saying these words, and I know that since I've watched this entire movie twice, they make sense to me, but it really just sounds like I'm having an episode right now. So as they're crossing the frozen ocean to get to the island of misfit toys, they break into a musical number. That is our 3rd musical number. I'm keeping track. Rudolph is talking about he doesn't really like being famous, and he kind of just wishes he was a normal reindeer. And then Hermie sort of breaks out into a song about how there's nothing wrong with being different. It's okay to be a little bit too fucking, it's in my head. This song is an earworm in the worst way. And this is where the terrible animation becomes noticeable. I haven't really mentioned it up until now because honestly, I didn't really notice it up until now. The characters' lips don't sync all the time. They move really weird. Rudolph always kind of seems like he's floating, and I feel like because he's a flying reindeer, they're using that to be lazy with like how they're animating him, but he sort of just kind of floats around a lot. The water effects are abysmal, even for the time. Like, this whole movie just kind of looks bad. Unfinished. It looks unfinished. Like, there are entire scenes that it doesn't even look like they put lighting or shading on any of the characters. It's kind of weird once you notice it. Like, once you're able to pick up on it, you can't stop seeing it in every scene. And this is when I noticed it. So, we're pretty early in the movie, and I pretty much just suffered through the rest of it. But this terrible song ends, and then they get back in the boat, car, sled thing, and make it to the island of misfit toys. And then we break into another song. Not even a full minute has passed. This is song number 4. And it's about the misfit toys. Now, I don't want to be that nerd that always talks about the source material, but in the original Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, there were some pretty fun misfit toys. There was the cute little elephant, and the doll, and the jack-in-a-box, and then like that bird that couldn't fly, that they just yeeted out of the back of the sleigh. All around adorable toys. What kind of misfit toys do we have this go around? A piggy bank that doesn't have a slot in it. Piggy bank's not really a toy. But okay. A pair of binoculars that can't see, so it's got a little pair of glasses on. I also wouldn't really consider binoculars a toy, though. And a boomerang that doesn't come back and is wearing a hat and is Australian. Is a boomerang a toy? Because it doesn't really feel like one. What is going on here? Like, these toys suck. These toys super suck. Like, the closest thing we get to a toy is, like, there's a top that gets dizzy, which is kind of funny, I guess. And then they have that musical number. It ends. We're introduced to all the toys. And then we get introduced to King Moonracer. He's super dope. He's just a lion with wings. Best character, 10 out of 10. So, up until now, the only conflict we've seen is the Toy Taker. Yeah, remember that? That's still going on over here in the fucking abyss. But King Moonracer has toothache. That's what this whole movie's been about so far. That gets resolved in a single scene. Yeah, they're done with that. Now they're going home. And why did we do any of this? Oh, don't worry, it'll come back later. Trust me. It totally makes sense in the end. So while Rudolph and Hermie are on their way home, they have another conversation about how Rudolph wishes he was normal, and also that he wants to bang Clarice. And Hermie wants to bang the Tooth Fairy? So, there's that. But then they run into a really bad storm and they crash their boat sled thing. The island they crashed on just so happens to be the home of the most terrifying thing I've ever seen in a Christmas movie, I think. So Rankin Bass films are always a little bit weird. They always have really interesting characters and plots and themes and styles, and weird, I guess, would be the best way to describe most of that. This goes a few steps beyond that. This character is the queen of her own kingdom, and also like a lounge singer, and also a plastic surgeon. An interesting thing about this film is since it came out in 2001, a lot of people were talking about plastic surgery. It was a huge thing that was like always in the news. Everyone wanted to talk about celebrities getting their noses done or their boobs done. Everyone loved to talk about plastic surgery. People loved to debate it and just like, it was something people liked to talk about. And that somehow made its way into a children's Christmas film. So this fairy hippo plastic surgeon lounge singing queen has a musical number. So this is song number 5, by the way. And she's talking about how she's able to make toys beautiful. She can take any broken toy and make it new again. Now she recognizes Rudolph, you know, because he's famous. So she offers Rudolph and Hermie a wish that they want, anything that she could feasibly do. Rudolph makes a comment about how Hermie wants to fuck the Tooth Fairy, and that's still something I gotta think about. But then it's brought up that Rudolph has always kind of wanted a normal nose, and what do you know, a plastic surgeon can do that. Beloved childhood icon Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer wants a nose job. She shows him pictures of how it could look, and he's 100% down. He is ready for this. This is his dream.
But what if it's another foggy Christmas Eve?
Santa can't afford headlights, darling?
What if Clarice doesn't like the new nose?
Maybe I need some time to think it over.
So Rudolph decides to sleep on the idea of face-altering surgery, and is like, I'm gonna talk to Clarice first, I'm gonna think about this, but I'll be back. So then they leave that location and make their way back to Christmastown. Is it called Christmastown? I think it was. Santa's castle. So Rudolph is now teaching Clarice to fly. So they're going through the thing. It's really cute. It's romantic. She's doing her best, but she sucks, because, you know, the bow is weighing her down, I'm sure. Then her and Rudolph decide to have a conversation about their feelings. And Rudolph confesses his love to her, and the love makes her fly. She thought the happy thoughts, sprinkled a little bit of pixie dust on her butt. She's going. She's gone. She also makes a comment about how much she likes Rudolph's nose, so just, like, file that in the weird nose bucket. Then Santa locks up his warehouse so no one will steal his toys, because he's heard of the Toy Taker. Yeah, remember him? But, oh no, they get stolen anyway. Surprise, surprise.
So we'll make new toys?
We can't make up for a year's work in 3 days!
So Santa, it is 3 days before Christmas. That means yesterday was 4 days before Christmas, and you just agreed to let Rudolph, one of your most important reindeer, just go on a mission with Hermie, and you had no idea how long it could have feasibly taken? They got shipwrecked. It could have taken them even longer if they hadn't been lucky enough to land on that weird hippo fortress. Santa just had a really weird lapse in judgment there, I guess. The toys get taken. There's no possible way they could make that many toys 3 days before Christmas. Guess no one's getting toys this year. Has anyone noticed that in, like, every Christmas movie, Santa's just so ready to give up on Christmas, like, all the time? Like, the most minor thing will happen, and he's just like, I can't do it anymore, guys. Christmas is canceled. Hey Santa, we're out of toilet paper. Ah, fuck, I'm gonna have to cancel Christmas, I guess. Toys are gone, so Rudolph and friends need to investigate. They gotta figure out where the toys went. I'm assuming that Santa is having the elves try to attempt to prepare more toys in the event that, in the span of 3 days, 2 reindeer, an elf, a homeless man and a monster can't figure out what happened. Yukon Cornelius really doesn't have anything to do in this movie also, which is like kind of funny. He is in a bunch of scenes in this movie, but does absolutely nothing in all of them. So they find some clues, and they're like really weird, like the footprints don't really look right, and there's stuffing that Santa hasn't used in years. Intrigue, mystery. Then Rudolph has the realization that the toy taker hasn't been to the Island of Misfit Toys yet, or the Hippo Queen's place. Both places where there are a lot of toys, ripe for the stealing. So Rudolph and friends skedaddle over to the Island of Misfit Toys with a plan. That plan being, get kidnapped. So everyone dresses up like toys, except for Hermes, who dresses like a tooth because he's a fucking idiot. So then when the toy taker comes to the spirit of the toys away, they pretend to be hypnotized and go up as well. Bumble gets left behind, and he's in a rabbit suit. This is my favorite part of this whole movie. He's like so distraught that he couldn't be kidnapped, and I feel that too, buddy. Merry Christmas, BB-8. Just gonna... Oh... Okay. But while they're on the blimp, Rudolph gives away that he's not a toy, making all the hypnotized toys start shrieking like animals, alerting the toy taker. Cornelius, you're dummy thick, and the clap from your ass cheeks keeps alerting the villain. Then an epic battle breaks out, and I'm gonna be honest, I zoned out both times during this part. This movie is really hard to watch. Like, I'm gonna bring this up now. It is near impossible to watch this movie all the way through without getting distracted. I'm sure a child might be able to do it, but even then that's a stretch. And I didn't even have anything to be distracted by. I was sitting there, full stop, trying to watch this movie. I didn't even have my phone on me, and I just blacked out. And it's in the same spots every time too. Like, I would just completely zone out. There's this fight scene, the blimp gets taken down, and they end up in a mine. And I'm not 100% sure how they ended up there. And even on rewatching the movie, I'm not 100% sure. And going back to the footage, I still don't know. Movie's weird. There's a cool minecart chase, yada yada yada. No one cares. And then they corner the toy taker, and they're like, Rudolph, he's afraid of your freaky glowing nose. Keep it on him. And then sometime later, the toy taker gets unmasked and revealed to have been a teddy bear on stilts. How adorable, I guess. So then this teddy bear reveals us his tragic backstory. He was a gift from Santa to a little boy years ago, but due to the fact that linear time exists, his child grew up, and Jesse from Toy Story'd him into a box, and then he got thrown away. So now he's spiteful, but instead of taking it out on the human race, which he totally could because he has a massive aircraft, we're not going to get into that. He decides to use his time to help liberate toys from children, so none of them have to experience the same sad, tragic fate he did. But then Santa's like, hey dude, we'll just get you a new owner. It's not that hard. No biggie. I'm fucking Santa Claus. Then they take this busted bear back to the plastic surgeon Hippo Fairy, and she fixes him up, makes him look all cute, restuffs him, cleans him up. He's looking great. The queen asks him if he wants to still take her up on the offer for that new nose, and he essentially has a bunch of flashbacks to all the times he was used as a glorified flashlight, and the one time a girl told him his nose was hot. So he just doesn't take her up on the offer, and I think this is where his lesson was supposed to be, even though it was originally set up that he was supposed to learn a lesson about coping with fame, but instead of that, it's about accepting your differences. Which is what he did in the first movie, but okay. Like, the entire first movie's point was accepting your differences and using your differences to still be a part of your community. I don't understand why this movie needed to exist if he's just going to learn the same lesson, but worse. So Santa takes the teddy bear to the house of his old owner and gives it to that guy's kid, and then I don't know how to say this in any other way. Hermie gets to fuck the Tooth Fairy, and that's like the end of the movie. And if all of that sounded like it didn't really quite fit together, that's because it didn't. This really felt like two movies just sort of came together and kissed a little bit, and then punched each other in the face. This movie feels like a fever dream. That is what it is. It's a fever dream with Rudolph in it. And as a kid, I loved this movie. I had it on DVD and watched it, like, religiously for Christmas every year. And I don't know why. It's not the worst Christmas movie by any means. And it's not even terrible. It's just bad. It's unpleasant in so many ways. I know I completely dropped the song counter thing, but there were like 3 more songs that are in this film that I just didn't bring up because they suck and aren't memorable in any way. The worst song in the movie is the Toy Taker Gets a Villain song. And that's a spiritual experience.
But close your ear to those things you hear. They're lies from snickly girls and boys.
You know, I was trying to get into the Christmas spirit, but now I'm just confused and kind of sad. Man, all this talk about Santa and Christmas traditions really has me thinking about what I want as a Christmas present this year. For you guys to like and subscribe to my channel. Also comment and tell me if there's any weird Christmas movies that you liked as a kid that not many people seem to remember. I found out that there's a lot of these like weird little Christmas movies that some people are like, this is a Christmas tradition, and the general public doesn't even remember the movie exists. And consider supporting me on Patreon, because I'm going to be uploading content directly to there that'll only be available to my patrons. I'm going to go watch the Charlie Brown Christmas special. Happy holidays, everyone.